Welcome to another great edition. I know I promised that every edition is going to be great, but I never lie. Another great edition of Beyond the Hype with Black Enterprise. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior VP and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. And once again, one of the recurring themes of this show is to try to kind of get into the money mindset of the business and entrepreneurial success stories that we cover in Black Enterprise and that gets covered in business media and social media all around the country and around the world. I'm really into kind of the mindset that drives financial behaviors, both for this show and the other show I host, Your Money, Your Life, because often our beliefs, our emotions, our experiences, and our relationships actually drive our decisions with money more than what we think does, like education and how much were we taught and what did we learn about the stock market. So in that light, that's why we have another great guest, someone who had the pleasure of interviewing on stage at the Black Enterprise Disruptor Summit in Atlanta last year. Please welcome to the show the founder of AppéSweet, Thereasa Black. Thereasa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm
So,
happy to be here.
just to get started, again, I know about the company, and those who are regulars at Black Enterprise kind of know your story. But let's talk about AppéSweet. I know we're in a new year in 2024. Talk about the journey for starting that company and what that company is all about.
Yeah. So, AppéSweet is a chocolate making company. We make date sweetened chocolate that uses only 3 to 5 ingredients in our chocolate bars. And that's primarily just dates, cocoa butter, and cocoa powder. And then inclusions like almonds and sea salt. Completely organic, completely vegan, and so dairy free and delicious, most importantly. So I started AppéSweet after I got deployed away from my daughter for a little over a year. And after crying every single day, I made a promise to her that I would never deploy again. And so I started this company to fulfill that promise. And so here we are.
A big part of why I was really happy to have you on the show for this conversation is that one of the things I say to people all the time is if you can find your why, you can find your way. And I know with your entrepreneurial journey, one of the things you were very clear about at the very beginning was why you were doing this. And again, you were in the service, you were deployed. Now, you probably wouldn't be the first parent that went off to the service, let's say a mother, and missed their child. But talk about the thought process that went from, no, I'm never doing this again, to starting this particular business.
Yep. So it's funny because I'm actually an attorney as well. I'm a licensed attorney, and I'm certified to practice
Yes.
actually in my state. And I decided not to do that. And so a lot of people questioned me because I had literally just graduated, just passed the bar when I got deployed. A lot of people questioned my thought process. And I mean, honestly, for me, it was like, all right, I can start being an attorney. I can get paid really well, but I also will be gone all the time. And I understand that most parents do that. Most parents in America do that every single day. And after being gone for that entire year, the thought of doing that and not being home, it just made me cry. And I knew that it wasn't for me. And so I when I worked in Japan, so I lived in Japan on my ship my last 2 years in the Navy, active duty. And while I was there, I started making cheesecakes for members of my division, and they started to share the cheesecakes. And then it quickly became, Thereasa, can you make me a cheesecake? And then they paid me. So I had my own little cheesecake gig, and so I really enjoyed that. Like I really enjoyed food, and so I knew that when I started my business, I wanted to do something with food. But cheesecakes take so long to make. And so while I was deployed, my family decided that my daughter, who I had never really given any sweets to, needed to have sweets because that's what she'd been missing her whole life. So they started giving her all types of sweets. And I was just like, all right, that's a perfect idea. I'll make the healthy version of the sweets that she loves. And so that's what I did. So I actually started off making gelato that was sweetened using dates. And I opened up a shop December 2019. A little shop. It was a temporary lease though, so it was only going to be for 1 year, no matter what. So when COVID happened, it didn't like throw a wrench in anything. It did make it difficult, but we were actually profitable that year. It's just that at the end of the year, my lease ran out, and so we moved into a commercial kitchen, and that's when I really started making the chocolate because gelato does not ship well, and it's super expensive to send, but the chocolate is not. And so I tested out the chocolate and people loved it. And so we pivoted to chocolate. And that's where we are today.
You know, there's so many directions we can go with this, but that, again, going back to define your why, a big part of happiness in general, and I'm actually reading a book about happiness, and they're talking about
Mhm.
happiness with work, happiness with friends, happiness with family, is you're doing things for that things that bring intrinsic reward. Your intrinsic reward, separate and apart from building a successful business or having a successful legal career, was I need to have time with my child. And so you're right. Logic says, well, I come back from the service, I got a law degree, I can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But your thing was, yeah, I could make a lot of money, but it defeats the purpose for why I said I'd never redeploy again. You
Yeah.
know, I would be really signing off from one deployment to another kind of deployment when you talk about the
Exactly.
hours you got to put in. So
Hmm.
you bring up something. A good friend of mine named Lamar Tyler of Traffic Sales and Profit, talked about recently that we think that when we become entrepreneurs, we get time freedom, and that's the mythology. Oh, I want time freedom. And he said, you don't really get time freedom because you got to work. Often you got to work more hours than you may have worked at your quote unquote um, former career or job. He said, but what you do get is time control.
Yeah.
It's what you didn't have in the Navy and you wouldn't have as an attorney. It's not that you didn't have to work to bring AppéSweet to market and to continue to run it today, but you needed time control so that it didn't interfere with the time you wanted to spend with your daughter. So talk to me about that because that's the first time I heard heard it put that way. But also it speaks to one of the reasons why the fastest growing entrepreneurial groups happen to be Black and brown women and women in general who say, you know what, I can't get time control even if I did get opportunities in a traditional corporate job. And time control is very important for the lifestyle I want to pursue. So how did that play into your thought process, if it did at all?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So I don't think at the beginning I realized how much time it was going to take before I started. But
Mm.
once I did start, it was immediate. It was immediately understandable. Like this is going to take a lot of time. And I think at the beginning, I did not do a good job of of having a balance. But I realized after a certain point that's just like I decided to do this so I could spend more time with my daughter, and I'm not spending more time with her. And so I realized that, and then I started specifically like carving out time. Like I pick her up from the bus every day. I drop her off every single day. My work day starts the second I drop her off, and then it ends when I pick her up until she goes to bed, and then I start back up again. And so I made it so that I could work my schedule around her and when she was with me. And so and that's what I did. And so we have dinner together every single night. She tells me about her day at school as we walk back from the bus stop. You know, we play Skippo or another game, but like we usually play a game called Skippo um, every day after dinner. And so and then Friday nights are movie nights. You know, Sunday is Mommy Bella Day, so she and I only spend it with her. We do whatever she wants to do for the whole day. And so it like I think at the beginning I did not really take control, like because I was just used to working a 9 to 5, right? Or not really 9 to 5, but I was used to working a regular schedule. And then once I got into it, it was just like, all right, I have complete control. I can just figure out how to do this on my terms. And so that's what I did. And I mean, honestly, now sometimes I have to go to meetings and fly out, and sometimes I can just take her with me. And if they don't want her in the meeting or at whatever I'm at, then I don't need to be there. um, and so, yeah, I mean, so that's where we're at. And if she doesn't want to come, that's a different story. But a lot of times she'll
Right.
just want to sit there and listen. And because she always says, "Mommy, I really want to come with you," and then she gets there and she's bored out of her mind. So it's just one of those things. Like she has to learn. And then next time she'll say, "Well, what are you doing?" And she'll ask more questions, so that she knows whether or not she thinks she'll have fun.
Well,
But yeah,
I mean, I
I
think it's
think at the
amazing.
beginning you don't really know until like once you get
Right.
started, that's when you figure it out.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, my career has not been an entrepreneurial one. I have worked a traditional career as a journalist and media professional for the most part. I was fortunate that because I worked for Black Enterprise and our late founder Earl Graves really did believe in not just telling kids what to do, but showing them what to do.
Hmm.
And so I could bring my kid to work on certain days, not just on take your child to work days, but
Yeah.
there were times like I want to bring my daughter to work and not just have let her sit in. And I used to bring her. I used to be active member of the local chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists in New York, and I would bring my daughter, and ultimately all my kids to these meetings. because I'm like, we want to tell kids that behave a certain way,
Yeah.
but we don't show them anything. I was like, show them what happens in a meeting, even if they don't really care or know what's really going on. But my oldest daughter, for example, learned, well, you don't just speak out of turn in a meeting. You raise your hand and you say, I have a question. And I told
Hmm.
you you're supposed to take notes. And she was barely, knowing how to write an alphabet yet, but she saw everybody else taking notes. And so I fast forward, I'm just saying, we're talking about, raising subsequent generations, particularly African Americans, who are comfortable in these environments, whether they do a traditional corporate career, a legal career, entrepreneurial career, that it helps when they've been exposed to those environments early. One of my friends, Ross Mack of Macconomics, says it's like teaching a language. Your
Yeah.
kid doesn't really understand English in the beginning, but you still talk.
Yeah.
Or if you speak Spanish in that household, after a
Hmm.
while they pick it up, and next thing you know, they're 3 years old and they're fluent. And we have to
Yeah.
do that in other areas. So I just love that
It's
about
funny.
your story and your
At three
journey.
years old, when my daughter was in preschool, on the playground, the teacher used to take pictures during the school day, and she took a video of them. They were playing gelato shop at on the playground. Her and her friends. And she and them had decided that like when they grew up, they were going to open up their own shop. She didn't want to make gelato. She wanted to have everything. She said, she wanted to have an
Yeah,
everything store where you could get everything there. And then she wanted to have her own lemonade stand. So she had her own lemonade brand. And I told her, I was like, I'm not running it for you. So if you want to start it, you can start it, but like it's gonna be yours. And so she's like, I'll wait till I get older. And then now that she's a little bit older, now wants to be a rocket scientist. And so she doesn't want to own her own business anymore. She wants to do something different. And it's just like, but if you ask her, what do you want to be? She says like her answer is literally anything I want. Because she
yeah,
understands that you don't have to be stuck in one area. She understands that there's multiple, like there's different avenues you can take. You don't have to take the same one as me. Because when she was younger, that's what she wanted to do. And I explained to her, is like, just because I do this doesn't mean that you have to do it. And so like, I want her to understand that like, you can choose, but you have to also be prepared. So you have to do well in school so that you have all these options open to you. And then so she also sees like how hard I work. And so like all these lessons are things that she understands now because she gets to see me working. Like instead of a parent who says, "Hey, I have to go to work," and you just disappear, you know what I mean, for the whole day and come back home and say, "Oh man, I'm so tired." They don't understand it. But when they constantly
right.
see you working, you know what I mean, they understand why you're tired.
That is amazing. That's a whole word right there. So on that point, let's take it back. Let's take it back. I was raised in a working poor household in a working class community. My family was a very like most of the significant number. I won't say most, but a significant number of the men in my family were military guys. All the branches, and most of the women, the dominant profession is nursing. So very hardworking, service oriented people and for me, one of the reasons that I realized later as I again contributed to forward to this book, I was like, I never thought about what my money personality was, but I now realize that I was a saver. I came from what you did is you didn't spend more than you made, and you put some to the side for a rainy day. And nobody talked about investing. That wasn't a reality in the community that came from. People only talked about giving from the perspective of tithing,
Yeah.
and since I was a saver, I wasn't a spender. So I learned to trace back. Well, why did my dominant personality, as I emerged into adulthood, start out with saving? Even though, of course, all those elements are part of my money personality today. Go
Hmm.
back to your early years and your lessons about money, your experiences about money, your thoughts about money. How did that inform, at least your youth in terms of how you related to money and what your expectations were and motivations were about money?
Yeah, so a lot of the men in my family passed. Like, so my grandfather passed away when I was, I think, three. He was hit by a car, and I didn't really know my dad until I turned 16. My aunt, she had four kids, and she had gotten divorced early on. So there wasn't a lot of men around me. My uncle lived pretty far away from me, and my other uncle was like our age, like he was very young. And so he was still a kid when we were growing up. And so the neighborhood I grew up in, it was really a bunch of single moms. And I saw very quickly, like my mom was a nurse, but a lot of the other moms, they did not have a similar profession. And so everybody was just struggling um, and to take care of their kids on their own. And so I learned very quickly. Everybody around me was spenders, though. Like everyone around me was spenders. Um, no, and every time that they needed something, like if there was an emergency, they had to borrow. And but this is the thing, is that they had to borrow, but people, even though they had nothing, they always found something to give. And so that shaped a lot of the person that I became, is that I am a saver, but I'm also a giver. In my early life, definitely a giver, like stronger on the giver side. Um, and then as I got older, like I remember when I was in high school, I finally got a real job. I babysat my whole life. I used to always save that money and or spend it on my school clothes and stuff that I needed, but I would save a lot. But when I got to high school and got a real job, I always tried to get to a CD. I wanted to get a certificate of deposit. And so my goal was always $500, like save to $500 and I can do it. Each time I got close to $500, somebody needed to borrow money every time. And it was like they knew, it was like they knew what my bank account was. And I always give it to them because at the end of the day, at that point, I didn't need anything. My mom made sure I had everything that I needed. I just wanted things, right? And so I think it wasn't until I got to college where I mean, I worked all through college. I paid my way through college. I didn't really take out any loans. I took out exactly what I needed only, because I did not want to fall into debt. Because my mom was still paying off her college loans at that point in my life, and I was just like, I don't want that to be me. And so I took a minimum debt. I think when I graduated, I only had $12,000 in loans. I worked a full time job during college, paying off all that stuff, and immediately went to the military. And when I went to the military, I saved everything. Like I paid my bills, but mostly I just saved. I rode my bike wherever I could ride my bike, so I didn't have to pay for gas. Like I was the cheapest person that you can imagine. And by the time I graduated, I paid off all my loans. I had no debt. I mean, sorry, not graduated, but by the time I left the military, so I left after 4.5 years, I left with no debt. I paid off my car. I paid off all my college loans, and I had nothing. I had savings in my savings account. I only lived, like each time I got promoted, I only lived off of the salary I had when I first entered, and anything that was above that, all that extra, like the raises, went straight to my savings account immediately. I didn't even have the option to hold on to it. Um, and then like at the end of the every month, I would allot myself a certain amount of money for spending, and if I didn't spend it by the end of the month, it went immediately into my savings. And also during that time, like in the military, they have an investment program, and so I like some of my money went to savings and some of it went to the investment. And so, but I always made sure that I had enough money going to the savings that made me feel comfortable. And so I would say that now, obviously, I do invest. I invested into this business, right? But
Yes.
I saved in order to invest. So I bought a house. I bought a house right before I deployed. It was on an auction. I rented it out while I was gone, and when I came back to start my business, I sold that house. And because I was in the military, I can buy a house with zero down payment. And so I bought a house right before I got back from my deployment, because it was cheaper than rent. I lived in that house for 5 years. I kept my money on the side. I was expecting to start paying myself through my business after like a year or so, but I couldn't because COVID happened. And so when that got extended, I was still living off my savings. And when my savings got to the point where I wasn't comfortable, I sold my house. I bought a new one because I had zero down payment, like I said. And so all the profit from the sale I got to keep, and then put barely any money into the newer house. And so it was just another way to like bring my savings back up. And so I would say that like I still invest, but mostly save, just because I still have that at heart. I still remember back when I was a kid. But yeah.
I mean, you're teaching a class right now. Let me just say this. I want to say two things. The best piece of advice I ever got that I wish I had taken earlier in life, you actually did. I was told maybe when I was in my late 20s, but I didn't really start doing it until I got the advice in my late 30s. I was
Hmm.
told, bank your raises.
Yeah.
He said, listen, if you were living off of whatever you were living on before you got the raise, just stay there at least for six
Exactly.
months. If you could do it
Yeah.
for the whole year, yeah, sooner or later your lifestyle is going to creep up. But if you can just say, I'm going to pretend like I never got this raise, and I'm going to stay where I am and bank, invest, whatever you do, put it to the side. He said, if you do that through your whole working life alone, you will have
Yeah.
plenty of money to invest.
Yeah.
The other thing that you made me think of, uh, and this goes back to the idea of saving, you said I save to invest. And the truth is, even us saver types, we save to spend. We're taught, no, I'm going to save. Like my mother had the Christmas fund. I'm putting money
Yeah.
away for the Christmas fund so we have money to go shopping. Now, the good news meant that she was not likely to go into credit card debt. Of course, my mother's generation didn't really have access to credit. So,
Hmm.
in a way, that was the why she did that. That's why Christmas funds were established in her generation. But it still reinforced my idea that no, if I want something, I save money for it and I spend it, which in a way is good because I'm not taking on debt. But I
Hmm.
had to learn later, no, you save money and you try to put your savings to work for you in some way, shape, or form. That could be buying real estate. That could be investing in the stock market. It could mean investing in your business. And again, those are two lessons that seems like you not seems like you did practice that I didn't come to really even understand and appreciate until later. That you don't just save for the sake of saving, because that's just hoarding, and you don't save just to spend it because you're kind of running in place. You save, you spend, you save, you spend, and you don't get anywhere. So I just love this idea of saving to invest. So I want to ask you a question. So you know, what seed was planted in you? Because even though you're a saver, and you like say you're a saver and a giver, but something in you as a teenager said invest in CDs. I mean, like in other words, there still was an investor thing in you, and I'm curious as to what was that about?
And it's really, I mean, it's completely random. My cousin got hit by a car when he was little, and
Mm,
they sued the person who hit him, and they put the money, when he got the money, they put it into a CD. And my aunt also got hit by a car, same thing when she was little, and they put it into a CD. And so when my aunt was only 8 years older than me, and so when she turned 18, she got access to that CD, and she had told me like, oh yeah, it grew this much from the time that I like from those years that she had it in there. And same thing with my little cousin is that it grew so much while they were little because they couldn't access it. And then they graduate, turn 18, and they have all this cash. And so in my mind, I was just like, well, I want that. And so also, I knew that if it was in a CD, you can't just take it out. And so even if someone asked
mm,
me to borrow money, I could say no because I didn't have access to it, because I felt bad saying no before that. And so it was just a couple. I mean, it's different things, and it's completely random. It wasn't like someone sat me down and was just like, Teresa. It was just like I saw it happening in front of me, and I was just like, this is a good idea. And yeah, I mean, I'm a weird kid. I don't think that I don't think that my mind works the same way as most kids. And I think it was more about just I need to make sure that I'm doing better. So I feel like everyone before us, like the next person, the next generation, you need to do better than the group before you. And so
yes.
even with like the kids now, like my cousins, we range in age, and so the kids that are younger than me, we try to sit them down and like talk to them like, this is what happened when I was a kid, don't make the same mistakes that I did, do this differently. And whether they listen to us or not, it's up to them, but they're still getting that advice, because nobody really sat us down and said, hey, this is what you should do with your money, this is what you should do with your life, this is the plan, you should have to make a plan. Like nobody did that for us. And so we, like me and my cousins, making a point to go and do that with our younger cousins, and our younger relatives, because like it's important. And if like you said, if we knew ahead of time, like if we knew just a little bit earlier, we could have made different decisions that would set us up for more success. And so, like at the end of the day, like it's kind of our obligation to do it. And honestly, even at my factory, we have some kids out there, even adults. I'll sit them down and like, hey, what are you doing? What are your plans? Like, how are you getting towards that goal? Because you're telling me you want to do this, but like nothing that you're doing right now, it makes it seem like you're trying to get there. And so like I'll sit them down, like let's go over it, let's figure it out, if they want to. Obviously, I'm not forcing anybody, but I think that it's important to like to share your knowledge.
That's so powerful, and I will say to you, I often feel weird too, but I've learned to say no. I'm just exceptional. I'm in the way I think, and that I would say you're exceptional the way you think. I embrace the weirdness of, if that's what it is. I'm good with it. Uh, but a couple of things you said is very important. Again, it's once you know to share it with others, and yeah, certainly your daughter, but others, because you're right. We're not going to reach this goal of for the Black Enterprise Mission, which is closing wealth disparities in Black America, if we don't say, my mama didn't know, my daddy didn't know, but I
Yeah,
know a little bit more than them, and now you're going to know a little bit more than me, and
yeah,
maybe I didn't get the lesson until I was in my 30s, but you got the lessons when you were 15. And that gives you a 20-year running start. And even if you
Yeah.
don't take the advice right away, you got 20 years to finally take the advice
Yeah.
as opposed to getting it later in life when obviously there's a lot more challenges and obligations. So I
Hmm.
really feel you on that. And you're not the first entrepreneur, but I'm always happy to hear when entrepreneurs say, no, my team, my workers, the people that work for me, I care about their ability to achieve their goals financially. And if I can teach them something, either formally, informally, then I'm gonna do that. And again, that's a common theme that one of the rewarding parts of working at Black Enterprises, we hear that all the time. Um, Talk to me a little bit though about, okay, so you went into the Navy, you came out of the Navy, you could have become an attorney, you chose the path of entrepreneurship. How does being an entrepreneur, and you've touched on some of it already, shape your mindset about money, not only in your day-to-day life today, but what you hope to achieve going forward, depending on the goals for yourself, your daughter, and your business?
So honestly, it changed it completely. Because before, like on my credit cards, like I spend money and I pay it off before the end of the month every single time. And so on my personal credit cards, I still do that. But for like my business credit card, it's not the same because you need cash. Like when you're running a business, like you can have a credit card, but most things have to pay with cash. Like you can't pay a paycheck with your credit card. And so there's just certain things that you need to be able to do. And so I use my credit card for everything, but I don't pay off the balance 100%. Like if I need to buy something, I'll pay down the credit card so I can buy that thing. I'll leave space open for the charges that are going to come through that month. But I just leave it. I leave it there because I need my cash. And so it's different than how I run my regular life, but I also make sure that's under control. Like I'm not sitting here putting my credit card all the way up to like wazoo. It's exactly what it needs to be in order to keep my payments low and also to be able to pay for everything that I need to pay for. But also utilizing points. And so points I did not know about before because as a college student you can't get a credit card that has real points. You can get like the little you mean the little credit cards that don't have that stuff, but like once I found out about points, oh my goodness, game changer. Because now everything for my business I pay for with my credit card and I get all these points. And so like I have enough points now. Like I have to go on a. I'm still in the reserves right now, and I have to. They're sending me to London next month, and I'm bringing Bella with me. Like I'm paying. I paid for her entire ticket with my points. And so it's just like yeah. I like so there's just like certain opportunities. And I also put Bella on my credit card to build her credit up. And it's a lot. This is when we were younger. At least when I was younger, some of the parents were putting their kids like putting the bills in their kids' names because their credit sucked, and then it would damage their
You know,
kids'
I
credit.
came from that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Putting the
My mom never did
utilities in
that to
their
me.
name, credit cards in their names. Kids
Yep.
turn 18 and
Uh,
find out they had a 300 credit score. They're like, where'd this come from? I didn't do
exactly.
anything.
And so for my daughter, what I'm doing for her is I put her on my credit card so that I can build her credit now. So that by the time that she's 18, she has credit already and she can go out and responsibly use a credit card. Because right now she has a debit card. Like I got her a bank account and I gave her debit card and she calls it a credit card. But like she has to learn like you cannot just go out and buy stuff just because you want it. And like in order to spend, you also have to save, but you're not spending everything that you save. And then so I'm teaching her those lessons now, and building up her credit now so that when she becomes an adult, she already understands what she's supposed to be doing, what she's not supposed to be doing. And I give her examples, like I give her living examples, like look at this person. Aren't they always asking me for money? And they're like, yeah. Do you know why? And I break it down for her, and walk her through it just so that she understands. But yeah, like my real life, like my personal life financials are different than my business life financials, specifically because of, like I said, I need the cash. And so each time I talk to an investor, they always I've only been told yes by like one investor so far, but whenever I talk to investors, they're asking me, well, how much are you paying yourself? And I'm just like, I'm paying enough. I'm paying myself enough to pay my bills, and that's it. And that's I don't like that. And they're like, well, you're making more money.
Right.
Your business is making more money than just that. Why aren't you spending more? And the answer is because when Walmart puts in an order for 500 cases of chocolate, I need to be able to buy all those ingredients. I need to be like, if it happens and I don't have the ingredients, I need to be able to buy them immediately. And if I'm paying myself a salary and I'm pulling all the cash and we're keeping the business low on cash, then when that happens, I won't be able to just be comfortable paying for those ingredients because I won't have enough money there. And so, yeah, I would feel more comfortable if I paid myself more. And like, I will pay myself more, but only once, like I'll step it up once we step up our sales. And so it's going to be in line with that. I'm not going to just do it because I need the money, like, or that I want the money. I'm going to do it because I earned it. And so that's how I work with my business.
That's so important. I'm going to say make 2 points. Um, what you're doing is you're saying I am making sure I have funds put aside so that if an opportunity pops up, in this case, a
Mhm.
large order from Walmart, I actually have the funds to take advantage of that opportunity. And why that resonates with me, we all know one of the first rules of personal finance is you create an emergency fund. You try to build up 6 to 12 months of living expenses that you put aside, readily available. It's not going to be high interest bearing, so that if I have to quit my job, if I get laid off, if something goes wrong, the car breaks down, I don't have to borrow. I can pull from this fund and get by. So, and we always call it like the emergency fund or the crisis fund. But again, I got a revelation a few years ago when I was doing there's a money radio feature I used to do for radio stations about 10 years ago or so. And a concept of what about if you don't call it an emergency fund, you call it an opportunity fund. One, it changes the framework because most people they don't want to think about emergencies, which is one of the reasons they don't save for them. Like, I don't want to think about something going wrong. But the other thing is that if you think of it as an opportunity fund, it incentivizes saving. And to your point, you actually have something on hand if, in your case, you get a big order you want to fill, or you have an opportunity to invest in another business, and you don't say, "Wow, I wish I could do it, but I don't have the money to do it." And so I'm fascinated, and I like that. I like the fact that you told that story in the way that talks about you're not just putting in money away for bad things that could happen. You're also putting money away to be prepared for good things, for the opportunities that come up. That too often we say, "Man, I wish I could do that," but we don't say, "I wish I could do that." We say, "I can't afford it," but often we can't afford it. To your point, because we're literally spending everything that we get in because we can do it. Now, and that leads to my other point, and I'm going to say, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. One of the things that I will say that too often new entrepreneurs, and I'll say new Black entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs get into is they want to look like they're balling. They got their company going, they're getting some success, and they want to, they want the car, they want, the house, they want to show up and, pop bottles, and, and if you're, depending on what community you live in, you may actually doing measurably better than your peers, and you want to show it. And often that results in a kind of excess spending that you might be able to afford in the present. But again, if an opportunity comes up and you have really maxed out your earnings on lifestyle, so I'm always admonishing entrepreneurs that I mentor, like, have the success, but don't. Success is a test that's easy to fail. That's what I tell them all the time. When and Damon John talks about in one of his books, The Power of Broke, the ability to have success as an entrepreneur, but still operate for when you didn't have the extra cash on hand to now you want to upgrade to new offices and upgrade and upgrade. And then there's a downturn in the business or a downturn in the industry and you're already overextended. I mean, I just wanted to really emphasize that because I think your wisdom in terms of how you approach your business, like you said, you could pay yourself more, but what's more important, to be able to pay yourself today or take advantage of opportunities that
Exactly.
inevitably will come up if you're in a position to do it.
Hmm. Like, so,
How do you think?
um,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, please, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so when I got deployed this last time to Djibouti, I lived in it's like a little, it's like the back of a tractor trailer, like the big little things, the things that are on the back of the tractor trailers that they pull around, and they
Mhm.
split that in half, and then one person lives on one side, another person lives on the other side, and then there's a bathroom that you share in between. And so I lived in a thing that was like maybe 100 square feet. I had a bed, a desk, and a dresser, and that's all that I had. I didn't watch TV for that whole year. I didn't like waste time. I read a lot of books, and it was like the first time in my life that I felt that I had time to sit down and really just think about what I wanted to do next. And
Mm.
I took advantage of that time by, like I said, not watching TV and just really focusing and figuring it out. And it was during that time that I also realized that I didn't need a lot of the stuff that I had, and that like you really don't need most of the things that that you have. And so when I got back home, I got rid of so many things. I mean, I gave them to charity, but like I got rid of so many things because it was just like I don't need this. I don't even want it anymore because like what am I gonna do with that? Like I didn't own a TV anymore. Like, oh, I still had my TV, but it broke. When it broke, I didn't buy a new one. And I wasn't even watching it. My family was watching it and they broke it. But it's just it's one of those things. It's just like you realize that you are wasting so much time doing certain things. And then also it's like trying to utilize my actual time. Like, what do I truly want to do when I have a break? Um, and the answer for me usually is sleep. But
Which is a
it's one of those
thing.
things.
I'm
It's
with
just
it.
you realize that you don't need a lot of things. Like I was never a person that was just like, I want everybody else to know what I have because I don't want anybody to know what I have. I don't want people asking to borrow money, or I don't want like, and not just that, but like also like I enjoy life, but I don't have to go to this place or that place to enjoy life. It's the people that I'm with. And so that's the lesson. That's just for me. That's not everybody, but that's just how I feel. And so learning that lesson like while I was gone helps me in life now as well, but it helps me also to not spend a ton because it's just like what am I spending this money on? So like what do I get out of it?
I had a similar experience. I know a lot of people did, not everybody did, during the shutdown of the pandemic. Um, Even before the pandemic, and let's say 2018, 2019, I was like, I'm spending a lot more money getting rid of stuff than I am buying stuff because I got too much stuff. I got stuff, and it's like, how do I get rid of it? And who do I donate it
Mhm.
to? And that was even before the pandemic. But during the pandemic and coming out of it, during the shutdown in particular, I was like, I came up with a rule. I was like, if you're not using it, either throw it away or give it away.
Yeah.
Because they were perfectly good things. I mean, I was, you know what it is. The clothes in the
Yeah.
closet, they're perfectly good, practically new. You haven't touched it in 10 years. But you keep telling yourself, but I could wear it, but you don't wear it, And,
Yeah.
I could go on and on and on. But it actually giving away stuff created wealth for me. You know, it created space.
Yeah.
It created, you know, it's this idea of getting more is not necessarily directly correlated to actually feeling or even being wealthier. And so this idea of separating what you really want to do. In fact, people say, "How do you get to do all the things that you do?" I mean, I do a lot of different things. I said because I know how to say no to what would be nice to do, but I don't
Yeah.
really want to do it.
Yeah.
It's either really like heaven's yes or no. It can't. It's those middle things that yeah, that TV show does look interesting, but do I want to spend the next you know 15 hours of the next month binging on this particular show just so I can say I watched it?
Yeah.
Because it's nice. I probably would enjoy it, but would I enjoy it more than the things that I really care about, the people I really care about, the activities I really care about? And so I think that applies to not only money, but to me, the two really foundational forms of wealth, which is health and time.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to invest in health and time. If I got health and time, I can get more money.
Yeah.
But you got to be very judicious about. Again, it's not the things you don't want to do that take up all of your time. It's the things that are nice to do that's taken away from what you really, really want to do. And so I
Yeah.
definitely appreciate your approach. Listen, in the time that we have left, what are your what is your money motivation for what you want your future to look like for yourself,
Um,
for your daughter, but for yourself? I mean, maybe there'll be a day when you don't want to run Bond AppéSweet anymore, or maybe
yeah.
somebody will come and say, "Listen, let me take it off your hands for $120 million," and we don't know. We don't know. We know what we're doing now. We know what our priorities now. But do you think about what is your vision? What is your thoughts for your entrepreneurial journey, your money journey, your legacy journey for what you see going forward?
Honestly, so with my business, I do want to sell it. My motivation is to sell it so that I can spend the rest. Like in the ideal world, I'd be able to sell my business and then spend the rest of my daughter, like up until she turns 18, like spend the rest of that time just with her, and we can just do
Mm,
stuff together. And like it's gonna be like you pick the thing that you want to do this weekend, and it's like it's not gonna be anymore like I have to work around my schedule. It'll just
mm,
be like we can hang out and we can do the thing that helps us bond, and she'll be able to experience all the things that I didn't get to experience when I was a kid. And it's not to spoil her, right, but to just educate her on
mm,
different cultures and let her understand that we're not the only people here in the world, and that like while
mm,
America is great to be in, it's not the only place that exists. And I just want her to understand that and respect other cultures, but also just have fun. Like I feel like a lot of kids, like as a parent, I hate to say that I do this, I know that I do. Some of the burdens that I have to face, like I have to go to work on a Saturday and I don't have anybody to watch Bella. She has to come with me, right? And
mm.
I make sure she has stuff to do while she's there, but like she shouldn't have to be sitting there with me. And I just want her to be able to like be a kid and have fun and like you can do it up as a kid because you only get it once, right? And we say that a lot, like you only live like YOLO, right? You only live once, but it's just like we don't
Right.
respect it in like the sense of the word. Like people say that when they want to do something crazy, as opposed to like just saying it to do something that like you know what I mean, that you just want, like you really want to do. um and so I don't know, I want her to have that life that I never really got to, and it's like a life where you're not afraid that like I don't know that maybe tomorrow you might not have a place to live, like you know what I mean. It's just I never had that fear personally, but
Right.
I'm saying like I don't know, I want her to feel, and then she does, like she feels comfortable and she doesn't ever fear for things, but it's just I don't know. I feel like I lived at where she's at right now, and I want her to be at the next spot. And
Yeah.
so, like, I feel that me having that money will help her to live that. And I'm not gonna just give her money because I do not believe in that. She's gonna have to work for everything that she does, but I also want to be able to let her experience things. So that's kind of like the
You know,
motivation that I have.
just to finish the thought of my friend Lamar Tyler when he talked about the between time control and time freedom, and he said entrepreneurs have time control. He said time freedom comes when you are able to invest and your investments pay off. And when you're talking the business, you invested in this business, you grew it, you made it successful, and then you sell it, and your investment paid up, and that's what gets you what you just described, time freedom. That I don't have to spend every waking hour making sure that the company's running. I mean, like again, you might reach another stage of your life, and now Bella is fully on her own doing her thing, and you say, you know what, I'm going to start this other thing and do it again. And
What's
build
funny
another
is
kind of
that
business as many entrepreneurs do.
So it's funny
You
is that
know.
I told you I have difficulty with investors. Like I had one investor that invested in me, and he's been a great investment partner, but like I've had trouble raising any more money. And so I wanted to start my
Mm-hmm.
factory, and that's I mean that was always my thing, and I wanted to do a factory, and nobody would give me the money to do it, and so I started a new company and took out an SBA loan. And so when I did that, that was like I said, all my cash. I won a bunch of pitch competitions, got the cash, and then started that second company. And I created another line of chocolates actually. And so now I actually have two different companies with two different lines, completely different lines of chocolate, and both of them have the opportunity to be extremely successful because they're so different from each other, but still similar, and still needed in the market. And so now I have the opportunity to. So my new company actually makes the chocolate for Bon AppéSweet, and then also has its own line of chocolate. And so my investors didn't want to give me any more money, but now they have to. I mean, I had to pay myself to make my like to make pay my other company to make my chocolate because either way I'd be paying. It's cheaper. It's cheaper than what I had to pay before, but I still have to pay. And so honestly, if they had just invested the money, it would have been a big saver. But now they're talking about combining the companies because they got to taste the other chocolate and they're just like, holy crap, like we want this. Like we want this too. And so now we're talking about merging the companies together. And so it's just like, well, that costs money too. And so at this point, I might be able to get money invested into Bon Appetit to buy myself out of the other company and then join them together. And then, I mean, honestly, this other brand, it's actually a sugar based chocolate, but it's still clean. So it's just Bon Appetit is really expensive because it's made with dates. This other chocolate is cheaper because it's made with sugar, but still the same clean ingredients. And so it's still vegan, still tastes like milk chocolate without the dairy, And so, but it's just like, it's a huge game changer because now it's a direct replacement for the Hershey's bar, as opposed to like a parallel.
Alternative product.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so,
that
I
is
mean, it's a game changer. And they tasted it and they were knocked out. They were just like, I can't believe this has no dairy in it. Like, I can't believe like, and so like, yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I have the opportunity to ultimately, at the end of the day, maybe potentially grow both of the companies at the same levels and then sell them both at the same time. Um, and so like, I mean, who knows what's gonna happen down the road, but like, I mean, I think I'll be set. I think that I'll be set. I think that Bella will be set, and I think that if Bella invests her money properly, that her kids will be set too. So that's the goal that
well.
I'm
You're
doing, that I'm
talking.
trying to work on.
You're talking about the things that we care about most at Black Enterprise, which is how do we create multi-generational wealth. It's not
Yeah.
real wealth if it's not multi-generational. But the other thing is, I tell people the actual real currency of wealth is options. When you have
Hmm.
options, you can say, this is what I want to do and this is what I don't want to do. You know, people, I'm much older than you are. And people say, what is your retirement goal? I said, my retirement goal is to only get paid to do what I actually want to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't want to work anymore, but I want to
Yeah.
know that, and I'm probably about 70, 75, maybe 80% there now, but I want to know that everything I do all day
Yeah.
is what I actually want to do, and enough,
Yeah.
and I get paid for enough of it to have the lifestyle that I want. But I'm not doing the, there's always, again, I'm still at, maybe 20% of my work is, I don't really enjoy doing this. I can do it. I'm good at doing it. But if I had my druthers, I wouldn't be doing it. But
Yeah.
to make the money, I will do it. And
Yep.
that was a goal I started setting. Now almost 15 or 17 years ago, and it's taking me this long to navigate my way toward it. But the truth is, whether no matter what path you take, wealth is about options.
Yeah.
If you have
Yeah.
options, you are in fact wealthy, and you're talking about not only your options, but your daughter's options and the generations after hers options, and that's what we're really talking about.
And
Teresa,
honestly, I
before I
think.
let you go, I
Oh,
know
sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
our audience is going to want to know where they're going to get a hold of your products. So, let them know. I want them to know where they can get Bon AppéSweet products and any other products, as well as how they can kind of, whether on social media or whatever, keep in touch with you and what you're doing going forward.
Hmm. Yep. So Bon AppéSweet website is www.boneappesweet.com. So that's BONAPPESWEET.com. And then all of our social media is at Eat Bon AppéSweet. Um, and so you can buy our products on our website. You can buy it on Amazon, but if you go to Amazon warning, you have to put Bon Appetit chocolate. Otherwise, it will autocorrect to Bon Appetit. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at Walmart. You can buy it at Whole Foods, and you can also buy it at Mom's Organic. And a number of other stores that you can buy it at, but they're all on the East Coast. But yeah, you can find it. But you can also, like I said, buy it directly from us.
Listen, I knew this was going to be an enjoyable experience, Teresa, because we talked before. Thank you so much for being my guest on Beyond the Hype.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Okay, oh, definitely. Okay, guys, this is another great edition of Beyond the Hype. This edition of Beyond the Hype was brought to you by New York Life. We had a great time. Get you some Bon AppéSweet. I'm going to get me some too, because I'm a chocoholic, by the way. I don't know if you knew
There
that.
you
And listen, have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.